All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Talk. And today it's going to be so much fun because I've got Crystal Caudill and Angela Strong with me. And what makes this so much fun is we actually wrote together on this collection that's coming in September, We Three Kings. And what made this one, I don't know, kind of fun. I love writing in collections, but what made this one fun is we were writing different time periods, one in the kind of the turn of the century, one in World War II, and then one contemporary, which you don't always get that wide range of times, but then they're connected by this ornament and the family history and just lots of different things where we were really
Excuse
interconnecting
me.
all of these different elements and really coming together in just a fun way with our editor and each other to really connect all of these different stories in a way that I think you as readers will really enjoy. And sometimes you'll get a collection and you'll be like, they're just kind of thrown together. And then other times you'll get a collection like We Three Kings where you're like, oh my gosh, these are actually interconnected, interwoven stories. So, Crystal, I thought we'd start with you. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and then, like in two sentences, a little bit about your story?
Okay. Um, I write historical romantic suspense basically, because I like danger and romance and just getting people in trouble. Um, so that happens a lot in actually the book Star of Wonder, I think is what mine's called. And we have the first Wise member, Aldrich Wise, who is a ship magnate. So think of Titanic, but the predecessor. And they're traveling from New York to Germany on the ship, and they run into some counterfeiting issues. So,
And I love that because that ties into your other books for this publisher where you've got Counterfeit Hope, Counterfeit Faith. I forget the name of the other one, Counterfeit Love, I think. And
mhm.
so you're bringing that whole theme and idea into this novella collection in a way that really fits. And so your readers are going to enjoy that, where people who haven't read your books are still going to really enjoy the setting. And it just really comes in seamlessly with everything that the rest of us are doing. And I had to stop and look because the novella title for mine, I still don't remember because I didn't have a title as I was writing it, but mine is titled Beauty Bright. And what was really fun for me in writing this novella is I had written Shadowed by Grace, which is set with the Monuments Men in Italy during World War II. And it won a couple of awards, but that was back in 2015. And then I hadn't done anything with the Monuments Men until this collection. And what was so much fun for me is when Kriegel came to me and asked me to be part of this collection, they wanted me to write World War II, but they said, how about something like perfume related in Paris? And I went, well, that's an interesting idea, but how about art in Germany? And they went, okay, that could work. And so I was able to actually look at what the Monuments Men did immediately after the war, which was really fascinating because when I think of the time immediately after World War II, I often am thinking about the Nuremberg trials and things like that. But the Monuments Men actually were pretty active in that time period, partly with the trials related to the men who were involved in stealing the art, but then also in restoring the art and repatriating it to the people in the countries that it was stolen from. So that became kind of the backdrop to my story, but it also is a prequel to the series I'll be writing for Kriegel that'll start coming out next year. So that was a lot of fun. And then Angela, you have the last novella in our collection.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they suggested perfume in Paris too, because I know they kind of wanted to do the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so I
Yeah,
liked how you worked in frankincense with the art, with a painting of the
yeah,
wise men. Um, and just I love both your stories because I love heists, which Crystal's is kind of heistish, and I love travel, where yours is in Germany. So that was fascinating to me. And then mine is it has to do with myrrh, and they suggested essential oils. And so the first thing I thought of when I heard of essential oils was we have this company in Boise where I live called Scentsy, and it's not essential oils, but it is candles, candle burner type things. And
yeah.
they have a huge campus, and they have a huge Christmas display every year. And so I immediately thought, well, I'm going to have a character who is a mogul of essential oils and has a campus like Scentsy, and hires a event coordinator to plan this big Christmas event. And so my story has to do with myrrh, and it ties into my Love Off Script series, whereas my main character is a friend from Gemma, who is in the first couple of books. And so Gemma shows up in the story as well. Yay, Gemma!
I love Gemma.
Yeah.
So fun. And I actually have Scentsy burners at my house. I had no idea that that's the company you were kind of basing it off of.
Yes.
So fun. So when you were coming up with these, so one of the things that we did is we all hopped on a phone call and we were talking about how we were going to make this all come together, even down to, we were basing it off of We Three Kings, so the wise men, and coming up with what the last name was going to be and the timelines for the family and all the connections and everything. So how did you figure out how your stories were going to connect with your books that you write as well? Because that's really fun for readers. I know as a reader, when I see those kind of connections or those Easter eggs to other books that an author has written, I love it. But it takes a lot of work to build those kind of strands and connections in. So how did you come up with that, Angela?
Oh, I get to start this time?
Yeah, you
All
do.
right. So I started with Scentsy, and then I set the story in Salt Lake, which is close to Boise. I've been there, and Christmas is a big thing there. So I thought that would be a good setting to explore. And because it's not too far from Portland, where my series is set, and I have Gemma's parents live in Salt Lake, so I just sent her home for Christmas. And then because in my upcoming book, which will come out the month before this collection, she does find love, and so she is like in this place where she's yes, exactly, hero debut. So she's in this place where she's encouraging her friend, it's okay to fall in love. You can let yourself fall in love. So that's how mine are tied together.
I
I
love
can't wait
that.
to read it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, and I just want to say real quick too. So in the first book, husband auditions Gemma, who is in the main character of Hero Debut. She's a screenplay writer, and she's testing out if she can break out of being duct taped to a chair. And so Crystal and her writing group actually tried that.
Oh, that's so fun.
Totally made my day.
It's a lot harder than you think it would be.
So who was duct taped? Was it you that was duct taped?
Yes, it was me who was duct taped.
And you used the advice and it did work? I never actually tried it.
Oh, I can't remember now. We had so much fun. Like we did a whole photo shoot. It was we get into trouble when we're together.
Yeah, I never actually tried that. I have had my writing group lock me in a trunk before to see if I could escape.
I want to say it did work, but
okay,
it's uncomfortably like I bruised.
Okay, I might have to try that.
That's crazy. And the hero audition was so much fun. And I love the cover for the hero debut. So I can't wait to read it because it's just so much fun. It just has this really fun vibe to it. Now, Crystal, how did you figure out? Did you know that you were going to just carry over the counterfeiting theme? Or was that something you had to kind of work through to kind of figure out? Or did you know going in that you wanted to have that connection? Or was that something that you kind of came to later as you were thinking about the novella?
I love books that are connected. So I went into it going, how can I connect this? So the heroine of the story is Celestia Isaacs, which is Josiah Isaacs' sister, and he's in the Secret Service. And Italians were really big counterfeiters back in that time period. And they were unique in that they did the counterfeiting in Italy and then shipped it over and then would distribute it there. So I kind of tied the shipping in with theirs being the way it got into the country. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because didn't you consider like actual gold and black gold, which is oil?
Yeah, I went through, when they gave me the theme of gold, it took me a long time to figure out how to make that work, because you wouldn't believe just how limited, even at the 1880s, some of that stuff was already completely taken over. Like oil, I couldn't do an oil magnet because there was already established. So
Yeah, and when you're doing historicals, you're trapped in a certain level by what was already in place. And for me, when I was doing, I guess, what is it, Beauty Bright, I still have to look and go, what's the title? Um, I knew I wanted to do the Monuments Men because there were so many more stories related to them. But it was as I was doing the research and things. And then it was really as I started writing the first book in the suspense series that I figured out how to tie it in, because I kept going, I'm writing a contemporary romantic suspense series for Kriegel, and they've asked me to do a World War II novella. And normally you wouldn't put those two things together. So it was kind of interesting to try and figure out what the connection was going to be. And then when it popped, I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool for people who read both of them. And they're going to, when they figure it out, because there's such a tight connection, but you won't necessarily, if you haven't read the novella, you won't be like, oh, I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've read both, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is the connection. And so I can't wait for people to read both and then get back to me and go, you did that? And I'm going to be like, yep, I went there. I did that.
Okay,
That is
that makes
awesome.
me want to read all of them now.
Yeah.
I know. And I don't want to tell people because they're books that aren't out yet. And
Yeah.
so, and it's not coming out till May of 2024. So it's quite a ways. It's like a year from now. And so, but the connection, when people read it, I think they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is really, it's going to fill in lots of things for people. So it's going to be fun, I think. Or I could really be disappointed. And then I'll just be rocking around depressed in June, being like, oh.
No, you have fun with it. That's what matters.
So when you're researching, when you're coming up with your ideas, what comes first, the plot point or the character? Crystal.
Oh, it depends. It changes almost every time. For the novella, it was the characters first because we kind of had to work from that angle and then figure out the plot from there. So,
How about you, Angela?
I think it depends. When you do a series, it's probably more about character because you're continuing characters from past books. For this one, my character is actually my heroine is pregnant. And so I had to get approval to have a pregnant heroine. And so my favorite part of that conversation was asking my editor, can I have a pregnant heroine? And she said, well, how'd she get pregnant? And so to which I said, yada, yada, yada. But then I clarified and we got approval for that. What about you?
For this one, it was actually the plot because I knew I wanted to do the Monuments Men. And then as I kept doing research, I kept getting more ideas. And so when I do historical, it often starts with the what if, it's some kind of historical hook. Whereas when I'm doing a contemporary, it can depend. It can be a little more fluid. I might have an idea for a character, or I might have an idea for, I might have seen, like I was just reading an article today about someone who actually proved someone had been improperly convicted of murder and got him out, and then his life was destroyed. And so I'm like, ooh, what can I do with that? And so that'll probably show up in a book at some point, but now it'll just be stewing in the back of my mind, and I'll come up with a character that's the right story for that character. And
and now you have sparked ideas in my brain, and my brain's going off in different directions.
Yeah, I get a lot of ideas from true life stories too, to the point that my kids will tell a story and they'll be like, Mom, this is my story. You do not have permission. And I'm like, but it's so good.
But my husband is always reading, so he'll send me articles. This might be a good story, or this might be something, you know what? And so, but I get the New York Times, like their newsletter every morning, and I get Wall Street Journal headlines and different things like that, just as ways to have constant kind of input of ideas. And you never know when one will take off. Like another one I saw today was there is a princess school. I don't normally write princess stories, but I write suspense.
I could have a lot of fun with that.
There's a lot we could do with that. Rachel Howe would go one direction, I would go a different direction, and you would both go different directions. And all coming from the same article. And so I think that's part of what's so fun with writing.
That would be a fun collection. Like have all the authors write a different princess in this school.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Ooh.
Then that.
Wait,
That's
I have to
next
pull
year's
out my tiara
collection.
now for that. There we go.
I have a tiara that's not too far away from me too.
Ah!
Okay, I gotta grab it.
Yes, okay. Kara, I was also wondering if you wanted to talk about the inspiration for the heritage, because I feel like that played a big part in our collection. You're traveling
Mhm.
and how
Yeah.
that entered our story.
Well, that's true, because part of the heritage is that they're German, and even on the cover, which we don't have the arcs yet, that I guess you can't really tell. It's a Christmas ornament. And the reason we did that is because when we had traveled as a family in Germany, the first time I did study abroad was actually in Hanover, Germany for 2 months. And then we went back for a service trip, and we were there for a Christmas, and of course now I'm forgetting the German word for it, Christmas market, and collected a bunch of those German cutout ornaments and things. And so I actually went back a year ago when we were already knew we were going to be doing this collection, and picked up a bunch of those ornaments so that we can use those in giveaways with the collection when we're doing marketing, because we were like, we need to include that as part of the heritage, along with some of the different food and things that they talk about, just from having had experience kind of living there for a couple months, and getting to know different people who live there. And so that was really kind of fun to pull that in. And especially even in the World War II piece, like, having been there, and in Hanover, I actually pulled in Hanover because Hanover was 90% destroyed in World War II. And that's really driven home when you go to the Rathaus there, which is like the town hall, and they've got dioramas from 1939 and 1945, and then other time periods. So you can see how the town grew and shrunk, and you see just the contrast between 1939 and then 1945 and how destroyed the city was. And so it really kind of put into stark relief just how dramatic the impact of the war was in Germany. And so I wanted to capture some of that, because it can be easy to not overlook, but just we get so caught up in the horrors of the war on other populations, like the Jewish population and the Roma populations, and can forget what it was like if you were a German citizen as well. So
yeah, and then I use that in my story, because Salt Lake actually has the Christkindl marked, which I believe is the word you were looking for. And yeah, and they have a tradition based on German folklore of a saint who is out riding around, and he finds this guy who's cold. And so he takes off his cloak and he cuts it in half, and he gives half of the cloak to this guy who's cold. And then people in the town went to like celebrate him, but he was so humble, he went and hid in the goose house. And so they all grabbed lanterns and went looking for him. So there's actually a lantern parade. And I didn't mention the title of my story, which is Perfect Light. And so it just all seems like it came together.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Crystal, did you pull in some stories like that into yours?
Yes, my brain went away for a minute, but yes. It wasn't so much I did do, how do you say his name? He's like the bad guy of Santa.
Oh, yes. What is his name?
Like, they made a horror movie out of it too.
Krampus. Is it Krampus?
Krampus, yeah.
Yes.
Krampus is one of the names. Neck Rupert or something like that. So depending on where you're at in Germany, depends on what they call him. But what the story is Santa, of course, gives the gifts to all the children. But for the children who are bad, you have the chance of being kidnapped by Neck Rupert and being switched or just taken away forever in some dark, it's a very dark story. So I did not give quite the details on what Krampus does, but he is included a little bit in the story. I do St. Nicholas Day, so where the candies get put in the shoes, and I had a fun tie-in with that.
That is so cool, because I also pulled in down in Bavaria, they do the the Epiphany. Epiphany is a lot bigger than actually Christmas is. And so pulling that in and making that a big part of the into the story. So I love how we were all pulling in these different pieces of kind of that heritage and the elements of how people celebrate and just those pieces of culture, because that's really kind of fun.
I'll put on my Santa hat for Saint Nick. There we go.
There you go.
I feel so underdressed. Y'all keep pulling out all these fun things.
All the
You've got
toys
the
we keep
purple
hidden
hair.
around our desk.
I just have Wonder Woman up there. That's all I've got. Just lots of Wonder Woman.
That's
So.
awesome.
You win.
So what's next for y'all? Angela, you've got the Hero debut coming in August. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I mentioned that she's a screenplay writer. And so she's trying to make her story authentic. I feel like these should be mirrored. My sunglasses should be mirrored. They don't count. Yeah, so she's a screenplay writer who goes to Citizens Police Academy. And my friend, author Heather Woodhaven, and I actually did go to Citizens Police Academy here in Meridian, Idaho. And it was just so fun that it inspired this story. And it started out with the cop who was teaching. He comes in and he's like, all right, who's the writers? And Heather and I are like, we're the writers. And he said, okay, I just have to get this off my chest. I just have to clarify. When a policeman saves somebody, he does not take off his shirt. He's like, that's what they do in all the shows. They're taking off their shirts to rescue people, but that does not happen. That is not authentic. Do not write police officers taking off their shirt. And so that made it into the story. And I had a lot of fun with that.
That is awesome.
So she goes to the police academy and she has a crush on the police officer who's teaching, but she causes all kinds of trouble for him because she's Gemma. So
I love it. And I did the FBI Citizens Academy years ago. And so those are the best. They are so, you learn so much, but they're also just a lot of fun to kind of get immersed into that career and learn those things like, don't have them take their shirts off. I mean, who in their right mind would think a police officer is going to do that in the middle of an emergency?
Oh, well.
I refrain from comment.
Crystal, what are you working on next?
So I'm working on an unofficial project, but it's connected to the Counterfeit Love series or Hidden Heart series. So if you read Counterfeit Love, there's a mention of a three-legged goat being stolen from the circus. And I start the book out with that scene of that happening. So hopefully it's in proposal. We'll see what happens. Right now, I'm just writing it and having fun. Other than that, I mean, Counterfeit Hope released in February and Counterfeit Faith released in May. So those are all out there for you guys to kind of dig into and enjoy.
That three-legged goat thing, I just love stuff like that because you can't make that up. Like that has to come from somewhere. That has to happen in real life. It's crazy.
There's some amazing videos out there because I had to research how like she would move. And so it was fun.
There's a video for everything.
Yes, there is.
That's so crazy. And that's the kind of stuff that readers don't always appreciate, that we're watching videos like that. How does a three-legged goat move? What's the gait like? And because if you don't do it, someone's going to call you on it. But nobody realizes we're literally watching. How does that actually work?
The details we research can be interesting.
Yeah.
Like for Counterfeit Faith, I had to research bathrooms. Like they used in the 1880s, there were bathrooms in like the richer places. But if you're talking like a house of refuge, there's a bunch of outhouses in the alley. So I had to look all that up and research about nightmen who take away the nastiness. So my research was very interesting, that book.
That's why I write 1940s forward.
There's still so much research involved in that, though. I can't imagine writing historical. That's got to be so hard.
Well, there's research in modern day stuff too, though, but it doesn't involve who takes away the nasty stuff.
I don't understand how y'all can deal with the technology in the contemporary. I'm like, keep me away.
Yeah.
There's research in everything. It's just a question of what we're going to research.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your favorite part of writing, Angela?
I I call it, it's a rule that I made up, kind of like there's the save the cat rule. I made it my own rule. And it's the nose plays, like nose. And it comes from Ocean's, I think it's 13, when
Oh,
Matt Damon's, he
yes.
has he puts on a fake nose because they're doing this whole con thing. And he puts on a fake nose. It's just part of his costume to make him look different. And later on, when they have to change their plot a little bit around, they're trying to figure it out. And then his nose actually comes into play when they're reworking the plot, and they all
I'm gonna
start
have to go
yelling,
back and
"Nose,
rewatch it.
please!" So when I'm writing a book and I'm stuck and I'm like, I don't know, I look back what I've already written, and then I'm able to fit the pieces together in an unexpected way, and I start yelling, "The nose, please!" And that's my favorite moment right there. Like I start dancing around the house, and my family's like, "Oh, the nose must have played again."
I love that. How about you, Crystal? What's your favorite part?
I'm way more boring. I actually like the developmental edits.
You should say normal. You're more normal.
I like the developmental edits because I'm faced with a problem and I get to solve it. And so I like trying to figure out how to fix a problem with the story.
Well, that's kind of the same thing though, right? The nose
Yeah.
plays. Yeah.
Now you've got a new way to say it.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch Ocean's 13. I haven't watched it since it came out. So
It cracks me up.
Oh my gosh, those are some of the best. The chemistry between like George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, they're collaborating, kind of like we get to collaborate with this. So we're kind of like, I'll just compare us to
Ocean's 3.
Ocean's 3, yeah.
And now we'll have I really do think maybe instead of like Princess High School, we'll have Princess University.
That could work.
I like it.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
I could dip my toes into contemporary.
Well, because it would have a historical feel to it because of course it's in a castle.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'll have to send you the link. It's a pretty cool building.
Please do.
Yeah, 2 princesses graduated over the weekend from this particular one, and another one's, and but it's really, I'll have to send you the link. I don't want to give it all away because it's really kind of a cool idea. Anyway, this is how ideas come to life, is you get these really interesting things pinging around in your brain, and the next thing you know, you have ideas that turn into stories.
There's so
too
much
many
suspense.
ideas, not enough time.
Yeah. I don't usually have that problem. I usually, there are people who say they have like 50 ideas in their head at any one time. I don't usually have that problem. I got to get better.
I have enough to share with you. I'll send you all my historical ideas because I'm never going to write them.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, like crime.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, but
the crime section in the bookstore is one of my favorites.
True crime. I love true crime too.
I just need to start listening to crime podcasts. That would probably
I can hook you up. We've got a few that we listen to.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We Three Kings comes out in September, and be on the lookout. We'll be doing all kinds of fun promo for it, but if you're looking for a collection that will get you in the Christmas mood, then We Three Kings is it. And we had a lot of fun coming up with our story ideas related to the Christmas Carol, but then just riffing off of that and having fun with gold, frankincense, and myrrh, having fun with the different time periods, and then tying it all together. And so I hope you enjoyed listening to how we came up with our ideas and put them all together, but then also learning more about how Crystal and Angela write their books and the other stories that they write. So thanks so much for joining me, Crystal and Angela. It was so much fun just to get to hang out and chat with you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.